Marshall skips away. Marshall skips away. Marshall's still going. Marshall's got Richards coming up outside. Now inside.
Arsenal have gone through an entire league campaign without losing.
Bennett and the Dragons win the grand final.
Whips that one away, and Kane Williamson and his team now World Test champions.
Welcome back to another episode of the TGIF podcast. Thank God it's footy. Big week on the cards for your footy fan. Yeah. I suppose first thing to address, unfortunately it was another week in the dumps for both our NRL sides.
The season is done and dusted. I don't think
Man Monday
there's nothing
done and dusted.
Nothing unfortunate about it, I don't think. It's another season in the books. We don't have to go through any of that now until March we're looking at. So, and it means we're a little bit closer to some international footy, like that Pacific Championship that we get to see again. I actually like to look at this as for us, it's actually not as bad as it sounds, because we're the only team to come away with something out of missing the top 8. I actually got presented with my first ever wooden spoon there on Monday morning. Imogen had
I was thinking of giving you one.
Got me one, so we've got something, and I've seen some prospected Tigers starting lineups there for 2025, and I've had a little play around to see what I'd do myself, and I've got to say it looks pretty good. We've got a tasty looking spine there, so and as always, it can't actually. Last year was
2 years ago.
2 years ago, we went from 16th to 17th, and that's not what we're after. But it can't get any worse.
This time last year it was officially worse than the year before. Yeah.
So that's. I'm hoping to think that we can get somewhere above 17th. Ideally there next year. But the season is done. We get into some finals footy, and we're down to crunch time.
Yeah, probably won't touch too much on the Dragons crashing and burning, however you want to call that. I guess we'll stick with the positives. Get into our team of the week, first of all, shall we?
Yeah, we'll have a little look at this team that we've picked for you this time around, and pretty tasty as always. We start off with none other than Kevin Ponga there at fullback. Getting the job done when he was needed.
Yeah, last few weeks he's really stood up for Newcastle and driven them home with 4 from 5 in their last 5 games. So yeah, great finish of the season, and that old timing has swung perfectly. I'm sure that'll come into play for the Knights over the coming weeks.
Yeah.
Hopefully weeks for their sake. Whether or not it is just this week, we'll have to wait and see. But KP, another outstanding performance, and probably expecting nothing less this weekend up against the Cowboys. But joining him there in the back three, Will Warbrick, front and centre of Melbourne's rout over the Broncos there, and Brian Toll, not as prolific of a win for him and his Penrith side, but solid as always.
Yep, two pretty solid performances there, and two players who will be both will be involved there this weekend. Your two centres, Iro and Tomoko, are there for you this week.
Shout out to the you mentioned earlier the Pacific Championships. Could be looking at a little cheeky Kiwi centre pairing there.
Yep.
I'm not sure on Kyle Ero's background, but certainly sounds Māori.
I believe he's
Kiwi.
a Kiwi, yeah. So you're not wrong. That could be a pretty tasty centre pairing. Tommy Durden and Hughes, they're your two halves this week.
Yeah, two big wins for both their teams. Cowboys absolutely tearing apart the doggies there, and as I said, Melbourne tearing apart the Bronx. Probably another 5 or 6 points for Hughes, just to make sure he wraps up that Dally M medal in style.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's probably looking like Storm sort of have not gone under the radar as such, but they didn't play the flashiest of stuff throughout parts of the season, and I think they're probably everyone's picked to go out there and take it now. So pretty tasty looking backline there. We move into that forward pack and we've gone for, as always, your double barrel RCG. Campbell Gillard there, putting in a shift for power against those hapless Tigers, and Tommy Hazelton is the other prop there.
Yeah, Tommy Hazelton just has a knack for scoring or setting up tries. A huge game for him.
Bit of a breakthrough season this year for him, and it's been off the back of those try scoring efforts there. So really solid performance for him for the Sharkies, and Jacob Little slotting in there in that hooking role.
Yeah, I think he might have had 2 or 3 line breaks there for the Dragons. Definitely helped us get out of the blocks early. Also scored a great little try where he seemed to carry a couple of blokes over for a couple of metres there. So yeah, I've been saying it a couple of times actually. Crookie, all of a sudden he's not looking like an automatic walkout in the Dragons round 1 side. We have to wait and see if Jacob Little keeps improving like this. It's going to be tough.
Yep,
I know it's going to have a headache.
It's going to be an interesting one to see how they go next year. Nikora and Lukey are your 2 second rows. Nikora bagging himself a nice meaty there up against the Manly Sea Eagles.
Yeah, was it 1 or 2 for Nikora?
I definitely remember 1.
He might have set one up the second, but yeah, another outstanding game. Probably. Yeah, I mean everyone says it, but probably the best line runner in the NRL really. Absolutely. He finds a hole every single time. Angled runs, straight runs, whatever it is. Insane. And Helen Lukey as well, another great performance. Adam Elliott rounds out the team at 13 there, so last round with 16 teams to choose from, so
yeah,
the pickings get a bit slimmer as we go on. This week we'll have 8 teams and we'll have 4 the next couple of weeks, and then just the 2 for the final week there. But there it is, your last team of the week for your regular season. You're around 27 team of the week.
We'll have to do a little bit of
Team of the Year collations.
Team of the Year collations there after that.
That'll start now.
See who we've backed the most throughout the season. I guess it's time to get into a little bit of finals footy then. Obviously, as we've just said, only 8 teams there this week, so a slightly less packed schedule there, but we kick it off Friday, Penrith up against the Roosters.
Is this game like in the middle or is it just 10 o'clock? Because I know the Saturday ones, the second game is a little bit earlier than the third game normally is.
Okay. 9:50, 6:05, 9:50, 6:05.
Just the first game's
just
a little bit later.
That's okay. So
must just be when
10 to 10 Friday night, Penrith up against the Roosters. Winner gets a week off, and the loser having to battle it out in the following week. Now, both teams coming in off some good wins there on the weekend.
Yep, well, I suppose Penrith a little bit shaky in that performance over Gold Coast. Roosters, yeah, look, 36-28, obviously doesn't look the prettiest, but I think South's running in 18 points in that final 10, sort of takes a little bit of the gloss off a Roosters performance when they needed it really, coming off a bit of huge news, or I suppose a few incidents the week before with Victor Radley, Brandon Smith and Sammy Walker all falling foul with some injuries there up against Canberra, so leaving some pretty big holes in that side, especially for finals. Definitely has put some doubts in my mind as to how far they really can go. They still got plenty of superstars.
A couple of players back this week, I believe. Tupou and Dom Young back into the starting lineup.
Were they rested last week, or were they injured or banned? Or?
Not too sure, but back in there this week regardless. So a little bit of added firepower for the boys.
Yeah, I mean, no matter who's up for the Roosters, really, they've still got plenty of superstars on the park. You still got Joey Manu, James Tedesco in great form. Sandon Smith, he's proven to be no slouch when he comes into the side. Had a pretty good run earlier this year, or maybe towards the end of last year. Carey, he's always going to lead them around the park, and Sammy Walker's absence well, and you're not missing out much with Connor Watson jumping in at 9, an Origin player. But I think Penrith probably have a little bit too much finals experience. You bring that home crowd advantage into play as well. The huge news of Nathan Cleary coming back into the side as well. Whether or not he's at full fitness, I'm sure it'll be just one of those mental lifts.
Yeah,
maybe not as big.
It's like that Tommy Turbo lift that we talked about. It's having him come back into the team there. Obviously Luai's been doing a good job in his absence, but to have them both back out there together, it'll be a happy sight there for Panthers fans, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%. A little bit of a shaky finish to the season for Penrith, I suppose, but when you consider, Nathan's been in and out, and you consider they played Melbourne in there and it was a close one. It's probably a little bit of a grand final preview to come, but look, it's pretty even in terms of the all-time results. Chooks obviously with a little bit of an advantage, but that one definitely comes over years further gone by rather than more recent years, because I think Penrith are coming in with a 9-game win streak up against the Chooks here, so
Jesus, yeah, so
it's going to be hard for the Roosters to shake that monkey off the back, make sure it's not 10 in a row, but
I think they're definitely going to have their work cut out for them. Obviously, we know what sort of a beast the Panthers are when it comes to finals footy, so they are going to have their work cut out for them. But they've been scoring a shit ton of points this year, the Roosters. So it's going to be. I think it's going to be hard for Penrith to keep them out for throughout that whole game. I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities for them to nab a few tries. And look, I think either way. We see both teams there when we get to the following week after next week. I think whoever loses in this game probably will still go out there and win next week, and we'll see them both in the preliminary finals. So I think it is going to be tough for the Roosters. I do think that big boost for Penrith is getting their main man Cleary back for this one.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be tough to topple them out at Penrith Park with Cleary in the side. But I suppose you'd probably give the Roosters just as good a chance as anybody else at the moment. So should be a good game, really. Obviously, disappointing for the Roosters and Roosters fans that they're missing a few key names in the finals run, but there's also that emotion of a few players moving on at the end of the season, Big Jared, Carey as well. Suoliti probably can't be understated. They seem to love him there. He's off to rugby, obviously. So a few players there in Roosters territory that'll be looking to sign off in style with another premiership or
break that streak.
A first one in Suoliti's case.
Started now with a win here in the first round of the finals. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to pick Roosters.
You're going to pick the Roosters.
Pick the Roosters to do it in a close one this week.
Okay. Interesting. I'm probably just going to have to go Penrith. But we'll see how that one turns out Friday night, I suppose.
Leaves you with the double banger there for your Saturday, as we said before, a slightly earlier game to start off with, 6:05, obviously just gone 4 there over in Aussie, and that is Storm up against the Sharkies. Now Storm definitely the team to beat. Sharkies possibly lucky to finish off in the top 4, would you say?
Yeah, look, Sharkies obviously started the season really well. I think it was, 10 from their first 11?
Yeah, and they look
including a little bit of an outlier, their loss to the Tigers.
And I think that's where my viewing this year of the Sharkies has been completely skewed based off that game, because, I mean, it was an outlier because Nico Hines, I think, he kicked the ball out of the full 3 or 4 times, and but yeah, I think my viewing's been skewed based off how they have performed in that game. But you're right, it was a very solid start to the season, and
a little bit of a drop off in the middle, and they've picked it up in the last few weeks.
They looked good up against Manly. They scored quite a few points. So, I mean, they wouldn't have been my pick after, maybe say 6-7 weeks ago to be in that top 4. I had them just continuously, dropping some points. That was what I was thinking, but. They've definitely got a tough gig here up against your minor premiers in Melbourne.
Yeah, I think this one is probably, no offence to Cronulla, the easiest to pick this week. It's going to take a huge effort from the Sharkies to go down to Melbourne and pick up another win, as they did round 10, I believe it was. Daniel Atkinson was the star of the show up against his old team there, but speaking of monkeys on the back, similar to the Roosters, the Sharkies have got a big one. 0-3 in the finals under Mr. Fitzgibbon as coach.
Yeah, it's not
obviously crash and burning the year before and falling short to the Chooks last year.
It's not a good look. Not a good look for the Sharkies when it comes down to finals footy. But obviously, finishing off in 4th place, if they do lose this one, they are going to get another crack to go out there.
Yep.
Out there next week. I think most people would be backing Melbourne when it comes to this one. It's the toughest draw of the lot, coming up against the minor premiers, and travelling to Melbourne as well just makes it that wee bit tougher.
Yeah, 100%. Pappenhausen back into the side for Melbourne won't ease any Sharkies fans' nerves, as well as Christian Welsh back for Melbourne. He's a big in. Yeah, look, it's hard to see Cronulla really shaking up the draw here with a win, but obviously Cronulla did pick up a famous win over Melbourne, that 2016 grand final, so they'll be looking to channel their inner Andrew Fafita, Paul Gallen, McInnes, plenty of greats in that side. So, but yeah, hard to see anything really but a Melbourne win in this one, but perhaps that's just how Cronulla want it to be, coming in as underdogs, nothing really to lose. The safety cushion of being in next week, regardless of whether it's a rest or an elimination final. But I can't see too many scenarios where the Sharkies will pick up a win, unless Nico Hines can really come back to some of the best footy we've seen out of him and have a blinder, sort of, not so much out of nowhere, but he has just come back from that serious injury, and he was good against Manly, but probably Trindle doing most of the conducting, most of the
he seemed to be the
good
one,
work in the halves for
he seemed
the
to be the one
Sharkies.
leading them around a wee bit. I think, as you said before, Jerome Hughes locking in those points for the Dally-M there last week. I think a lot of this game's going to come down to him and the influence that he has on the game, and whether or not the Sharkies can keep him quiet. If they can do that, then I think they've got a shot. But I think he's going to be too good. They're going to have to get out there next week up against whoever, one of the winners from the following 2 games, and try and get it that second crack. But for the Sharkies' sake, we'll be hoping it doesn't end up 0-4 come the end of this. Because if they do, I think even though they'll be coming up against someone from that little bit lower down in the table, they're going into it off the back of a loss, and the other team coming in with a bit of confidence. It's going to be tough to try and turn that around, I think.
Yeah, momentum's always a good thing to have at this time of year as well. You don't want to come in and absolutely get pumped 50-0 down in Melbourne and have to turn that around in the space of a week. But maybe not the worst if they lose 1-12. Give it a good crack and say, look, maybe that's just the home advantage at play. We get them.
Yep.
Not necessarily back in Sydney, but you don't have to make a trip to Melbourne again. So, unless you're playing the Cowboys, every other game is going to be in Sydney.
Yep.
So,
I think that everything leads to a Melbourne win. This one, everything leads to a Melbourne win. It's a tough gig travelling to Melbourne to take them on, and as I said before, coming in as minor premiers, I think that's going to be more than enough to get them over the line there come Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't say it any better myself.
You get into that bottom half of your finals.
I was just thinking from probably also the easiest game to pick to near on probably the hardest, especially based on recent form.
Definitely the trickier one out of the four to pick. This one here, the Cowboys up against the Knights. Obviously the Knights having to travel there up to Townsville for this one, but the Cowboys huge win there, a bit of a shocking one there at that against the Doggies.
Yeah, massive one after the Dogs, maybe not scoreline wise got pumped by Manly the week before, but certainly seemed like Manly really dominated them the week before as well. So obviously not chatting about the Dogs just yet, but yeah, the Cowboys were very impressive on that one. Similar to Cronulla, maybe sort of snuck under the radar to come in fifth this year. I think they had a couple of buys late, which sort of fooled everyone a little bit throughout that mid part of the season, that they might have been hanging a spot or two further back than they ended up in. But on the whole, it's I can't say North Queensland have really made me look at them and think, fuck, they could win the comp this year, but
no, not at all.
Big 44-6 win over the Dogs, who 2 or 3 weeks ago you could have easily convinced me they had a really good shot at winning the comp this year. It throws things up in the air for me a little bit. I think, are they a little bit of a dark horse? They probably struggle up against the classier sides.
I think they struggle next weekend regardless of who they play, either of these teams, I think. But you're probably right. Are they a little bit of a dark horse? Going into this one, obviously, the Knights pretty much starting their campaign last week, having a win to make it through.
They've sort of been on the edge the last few weeks, needing to win.
It's kind of like you've already started off your finals campaign before you actually get there. So, are they in a position where they've kind of got nothing to lose? Go out there and give it a good crack. If they can get a win, they stay alive. If they lose, they're out. So. It is probably a pretty tricky one to pick. Like you said, I don't think the Cowboys have done anything too impressive throughout the season that really stands out to me.
Yeah, although in saying that, they have managed to finish fifth, just a couple of points off
top four in the end, I believe. Just the 2 points behind Cronulla. Yep, just the 2
points. Ended up being pretty tight up
behind Cronulla, so
very close to a top 4 finish for the Cows in a season, as we said, not too impressive. Nothing that really jumps out in your memory, apart from maybe that big win over the Dogs last week. Newcastle, on the other hand, I feel like their hopes... It's harsh to say because they've obviously got plenty of quality players, but if they really want to, win this week and even have a chance next week, Kalen Ponga, I think, is going to have to really kick on and show a similar run of form as he did last year. He's shown it for a couple of weeks coming into the finals. So whether he can keep that going up in Townsville and wherever they end up next week, if they do get a win in this one. But yeah, unless he can really steal the show, I think Newcastle will probably struggle regardless next week if they can get a win in this one. But I don't know. It's probably going to have to be the Cowboys for me, just based on that home advantage, based on possibly that over-reliance on KP. But do the Cowboys have the defensive capability of some of those bigger sides to shut a player like KP down? I'm not sure they do, but we'll see. I mean, obviously, as we've seen, the Cowboys have been pretty hot on attack this year. Drinkwater, Val Holmes, top point scorer. Tommy Dearden's had an outstanding season as well. Plenty of Kyle Felt, almost top try scorer. So plenty of attack for the Cowboys. It should be a good game here on Saturday night.
Yeah, I do think it will be a good one. I'm backing the Cowboys. I'm thinking in this one, just based off the fact we've had to see the Knights sort of scrape their way into this one. I do think that the Knights are going to be the first team to be getting the boot in terms of this year's finals footy. I'm thinking it's a tough gig going in there from 8th place. So I'm thinking the Cowboys get the win and they get in there for a game there next week.
Yeah. These two never faced each other in the finals before, by my research. So, an interesting little stat to come out of this one. Nearly 30 odd years of the Cowboys being in the comp. So, interesting. But yeah, I think it's been a while since Newcastle have managed to go up to Townsville and get a win. Cowboys picking up 4 of the last 5, all 4 of those being in Townsville, and the only win for Newcastle being down at McDonald Jones or whatever it's called these days stadium. So unless there's a little bit of KP magic on offer on Saturday night, I think it's going to be a Cowboys win.
Yep.
You never know what KP's got in his locker.
Yeah, I think that'll definitely come down to him there on Saturday, whether how that end result is. But I think we're both looking pretty similar there. Two Cowboys wins there from the two of us. And that leaves you with your last game of the round, the Doggies up against Manly. We saw this game there, 2-3 weeks ago. Bit of another battle here. Tough ask for Manly, I think.
Yeah, see, I'm thinking it's a tough ask for the Bulldogs here. I'm thinking Manly come in, obviously a little bit of a blip last week for Manly. But yeah, the Dogs the last 2 weeks have really struggled, going from the best defensive side to conceding 32 or 34 and 44 in consecutive weeks is not nice. I think the week before against Manly there was no Crichton, and obviously they had a couple of key players in Birdo and Sherry and Kurt Mann missing this week up against the Cowboys. So yeah, whether or not the Bulldogs have sort of peaked a little bit too early and they're falling off a cliff, or whether they do have it within them to turn it around this week and really get that tough sort of dogs of war mentality that we've seen from them earlier in the year, particularly sort of 5-6 weeks ago when we were all picking them as our dark horse to maybe do something from outside the top 4, maybe even clinch a top 4 spot.
I just think that Manly are really going to struggle. They've obviously got Turbo back for this game here. I don't think he's going to be fully fit. I definitely don't think he's going to be 100%. It's got the brought back early written all over it, I think, in this one here. You can see him maybe nabbing a try in the first 15, 20 minutes and then something happening, maybe 10, 15 after that, and it all just going downhill for them. It's just the vibe that I'm getting. They've done it a few times, brought back Tommy Turbo and for a certain game, and then have him go down again with another injury. So, and I've also said it so many times. That's a huge. What's the word there that I'm looking for? Influence on the Manly result was often Tommy Turbo. So when he's fit and firing, they tend to do well. And when he's not at his best, he's either injured or getting injured. So it's going to be. I think it's going to be tough there for Manly in this one, even with that little bit of blip in form the Doggies have seen in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you're right. It all depends on whether Tommy really is fit or not, whether he can get through this one unscathed. I think, with it being elimination, sudden death football, they probably, or maybe it was Tommy, decided he probably had to come back this week rather than giving it another week, should that be the case. But, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago I would have given it to the Dogs without a second thought, possibly even with Tommy in the side. But these last 2 weeks have got me thinking maybe it's just a couple of years early for the Dogs to be getting hyped up about premierships. You obviously got to get that little bit of experience playing in the finals. Getting a few more pieces of the puzzle together. Especially to knock off a team as good as Penrith are at the moment. You look at Melbourne, they've got the best coach, they've had 3 or 4 of the best key spine players over the last number of years, so it's no surprise they're up there challenging Penrith. But whether or not it is maybe a couple of years too early, 1 or 2 signings too early for the Dogs to be getting too excited. Not too sure, but it's been a long wait for the Doggies fans.
It's been a wee while,
4 or 5 years since they played finals footy, and coming back into it with a home game, I wouldn't be surprised if this one was sold out.
I'd say it'll be
Bulldogs Manly. It's a big rivalry as well. Both clubs are well supported.
I'd say it'll be pretty close to sold out. Obviously, the Doggies there got a bit of an advantage there when it comes to finals footy up against Manly. Taking 4 wins there against them, including that grand final win there in '95. Yep. So, but on the other hand, Manly coming in on a bit of a win streak. They've won 4 of the last 5 against the Doggies. So they'll be coming in hoping that they can go out there and get the job done.
Yeah, the big news for the Dogs, though, to come out maybe yesterday, I think it was. Don't know if you've seen all of this. The old Josh Addo-Carr standing himself down for what we see today has come out as an eventual second follow-up. Oh, you might get a shot of Ace stretching in front of you there. Hey, bud. Standing himself down for what ended up being a negative drug test on the follow-up second drug test that he was able to have. So interesting to see how this one plays out. Obviously, according to the cops, testing positive in that first one. Stand yourself down. Don't know if I've ever seen that.
It doesn't look too positive there for him when you're going out there and doing that. It's an interesting one there.
To be fair, they have done well with young Jarrell Skelton in there, and as a Tigers fan, it's got to be good to see him lining up in the side this week, getting a bit of finals experience,
100% before he comes in there next year. But I think it's going to matter. I think they'll go out there and get the job done there up against Manly this week either way.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Sunday night, I think it's, these 2 elimination finals probably have a little bit more, I don't know, I feel like Penrith and Melbourne, apart from obviously the Roosters, definitely a class above. Whereas, yeah, in and around this bottom half of the A, it's a little bit more even with these sides. So you're going Doggies. I think I'm going to have to go Manly. I'm seeing an unscathed Tommy getting through this week and maybe falling foul next week against a tougher opponent on paper in terms of ladder positioning at least. But it's going to be a huge occasion Sunday afternoon, that's for sure. The Doggies back in finals footy. It's good to see, even though as a Dragons fan they are a bit of a rival. But yeah, always good to see a team come from the bottom back up to the top. We don't want to see the same teams winning it year after year. It's been nice to see Penrith sort of knock Melbourne and the Roosters off their perch, but it would be nice for someone.
I'd like to see someone a little bit different go out there.
Yeah, someone knock Penrith off their perch now, and maybe it not be Melbourne or the Roosters.
Yeah,
it'd be
and
nice.
maybe the Tigers can come in and be the team to knock them off their perch. Once they've
2026, you said.
Yeah, I did say 2026. So only time will tell. But this time next week there'll only be 6 teams left in the mix-up. So who knows who will be getting the rest, who will be going home early, and who will be the 4 teams battling it out for that next spot there next week. We have had a big international break in terms of the round ball. Terrible as always.
Heaviest news.
Couple of injuries. We've seen Caliafori go down with injury. We've seen Odegaard this morning come off early with an injury. So really, as always, the international break causing trouble for Arsenal. So just another reason why I think the only good thing to come from this international break has been San Marino beating Liechtenstein.
Pretty cool.
And we then saw Liechtenstein draw with Gibraltar, and it just looks like such a good little Nations League pool. But also great because we don't have anyone from Gibraltar, Liechtenstein or San Marino to have to worry about any stupid bloody injuries. So we now go into this North London derby there without our captain and without one of our new signings. We've already got Marino down injured. So it's not what we're after.
Yeah, 2 key parts of the midfield missing now, with obviously Deki Rice picking up that red card. However controversial you may think that one to have been out of the Brighton game, but look, either way, even without those two, even with Marino on the sidelines, you'd like to hope the Arsenal come in pretty confident of picking up 3 points. Obviously, you can never really read too much into where both teams are. Spurs had a little bit of a rebuild season last year. Probably did a little bit better than many would have expected. And I think with a couple of decent signings that they've managed to pull off, on paper at least, they'll be there or thereabouts for a top 4 spot come the end of the year. Should everything go their way, and they not suffer too many key injuries again. But look, a win, draw and a loss for them to start off their season, compared to a couple of wins and a draw for the Arsenal. You can never really read too much into the form in these games, no matter if one of us is coming in as a bottom half of the table side and the others coming in as a title contender. It doesn't really tend to matter too much.
Not after 3 games. No.
Yeah, it tends to be a fiery affair, and exactly. You can't read too much into the table at this stage anyway. With some teams having a tougher run of things with those first 3 fixtures. 3 wins, a draw and a loss in our last 5 against them, including, I think we're unbeaten in 4.
Yeah. Okay.
Obviously, I think we won 2 games the year before, and then we won and we drew last year. Whereas they beat us in the fixture before that which was the old top four.
The old caneless
decider.
Caneless Spurs is it's a slightly different.
They haven't beaten us since Kane's been there.
It's a tough for us for the old Tottenham to get out there and get the job done against us now, I think. So, you'd like to be, even with a couple of injuries, you'd like to be quietly confident we can go out there and get this one done.
I like to hope so, yeah.
The only bugger is it's somebody Monday 1 a.m. It's possibly one of the worst times you can have a game for us Kiwis over here. You either have to. I'm thinking what I might have to do is maybe get into bed a little bit early. Obviously, only one game of footy there on your Sunday, so you can have an early night, wake up around 1, watch the game in bed, and then get back to sleep for you're getting another 3.5 hours of snooze in you, because I feel like this is a game you can't really. As a teacher of 10 and 11-year-olds, I'm not going to be able to get away with hiding from any result there come Monday morning at school. I'm sure it'll either be the boys telling me about Saka and their fantasy team scoring them some points, or they'll be coming in to laugh at me. So I'm thinking that's going to have to be my plan there come Monday. Get a bit of an early one, get a few hours kip, and watch an Arsenal win, and then back to bed for a little bit longer.
Well, can't say I'd be hitting that one. I think I'll be, either just hustling it out or watching it in the morning, because no one's going to ruin the result for me there. But either way, up the Arsenal, fuck the Spurs, and yeah, it's North London Derby. North London Derby time, the first of the year.
Yep, we love it. Hopefully,
not the first of the year, the first of the season.
Hopefully, 3 points there come Monday morning. Now, I made a bit of a mistake there last week in terms of the old arrows there. Thought we were seeing a little bit of World Series finals. Thought we were going to get to see a little bit of hope up against Luke Humphries, but I was a week ahead of myself, and we actually took the trip over to Belgium there for the inaugural Flanders Darts Trophy. Plenty of big names losing early days. We saw MVG lose early, Luke Littler lose early, and it left you with a slightly unusual looking matchup there when you get to your final. We had Dave Chisnell up against Ricardo Petrescu. They obviously Chizzy very successful on the European tour, and managing to take the win there in the end. I think 8-6. He took the win up against Pikachu there, as he is known, and I believe that now leaves us with a little bit of World Series finals this weekend. I think it kicks off the 13th, so Saturday morning for us, and we will then get to see Hopes up against the world number one, losing to Petrescu there in the semi-finals last weekend. So whether or not we can see Hopes pull off a little bit of an upset, it would be awesome to see, but also good timing, as I believe he then gets underway with a few more European Tour qualifiers, bits and pieces like that. Hopefully some events where you can make a little bit of money and add to that ranking there in the order of merit. But I believe you're probably looking at about 9:30 there, New Zealand time, Saturday morning, the New Zealand number one darts player up against the world number one. So intriguing matchup that we have there. Probably us for another week. So as always, if you've made it this far, thank you for tuning in. Remember to get involved in all your socials. Give us a like, give us a 5-star, get subscribed. Enjoy your week ahead. Enjoy whatever sport you may be getting yourself involved with. And if you're having a punt, do it responsibly, and hopefully we'll see you here next week.
Yep, sounds like a plan. We sure will. See you then.
Ciao.
Marshall skips away. Marshall's still going. Marshall's got Richards coming up outside. Now inside.
Arsenal have gone through an entire league campaign without losing.
Bennett and the Dragons win the grand final.
Whips that one away, and Kane Williamson and his team now World Test champions.